forensic team to examine the DVR. Prime Minister Modi meets injured and the families of the deceased passengers at the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, holds a review meeting at Ahmedabad. PM Modi meets the lone survivor Ramesh Vishwa Kumar, who miraculously escaped AI-171A crash. Families of deceased passengers provide DNA samples at Vijay Medical College for bodies identification. So far, 205 samples collected, 6 bodies handed over. Netanyahu confirms Operation Rising Lion against Iran. Reports of over 100 airstrikes in Tehran and Iran's nuclear sites. Death toll in Iran rises to 20. Iran hits back with retaliatory strikes on Israel, launches Shahed 136 drones. Israel intercepts over Syria and Jordan. India issues statements on fresh strikes by Israel on Iran and calls to use dialogue and diplomacy to de-escalate ongoing tension. Red flag of revenge raised over Jamkaran Mosque in Qom, Iran, following Israeli aggression against Iran. Brent crude prices rise above $78 a barrel after Israel launches its strikes on Iran, marking a significant escalation in the Middle East. It is one of the darkest chapters in India's aviation history. The Air India flight from Ahmedabad to London carrying 242 passengers and crew crashed immediately after takeoff on Thursday afternoon. This footage is a reminder of the fact that something horribly went wrong in the first 15 seconds after the takeoff. The plane loses the thrust and starts to come down. The landing gear is not retracted and it turns into an inferno, killing everyone on board except one person who miraculously survives. No one escaped apart from him. Former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was among the 241 killed. In a statement, Air India said that of the 242 aboard, there are 241 confirmed fatalities. The crashes were one of the deadliest worldwide since 2014, when a Malaysia airline jet was shot down over Ukraine, killing all 298 people on board. The Boeing 7878 Dreamliner aircraft took off from Ahmedabad Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport's runway 28. Seconds later, the aircraft plummeted into the BJ Medical College hostel mess near the airport as over 100 students were gathered for lunch. A towering plume of smoke was visible from afar after a massive explosion. As per DGCA, the pilots gave a mayday call immediately after takeoff, signaling a life-threatening emergency, but did not respond to subsequent calls made by the airport traffic control. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the crash site in Ahmedabad to assess the situation firsthand and held a review meeting. Civil Aviation Minister K. Rammohan Naidu said an official investigation has been initiated by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. In line with the international protocols, as per the rules, the first report must be filed within 30 days of the incident. Let me take you through the timeline first. 1:34 p.m., cleared by Ahmedabad Air Traffic Service, aircraft lines up on runway 28. 1:38 p.m. Plane takes off. Seconds later, the pilot issues a Mayday distress call. 1:38:55, which is the second. The aircraft reaches an altitude of 625 feet before beginning to rapidly descend. 1:39 p.m. Aircraft crashes into the quarters of Vijay Medical College. And now let me play out the photographs of the college where the aircraft crashed and hundreds of students were there. The aircraft struck the doctor's residential quarters of the government-run medical college while students were midway through the lunch. The impact and subsequent explosion turned the sky orange, sending thick black smoke billowing above and leaving the compound resembling a war zone. Now let me show you a walkthrough at the hostel by my colleague Kumar Kundan.
इस वक्त हम मेस में मौजूद हैं। ये वो मेस है जहाँ पे कि विमान सबसे पहले टकराया और टकराने के बाद बच्चे यहाँ पे खाना खा रहे थे। खाना खाने के बाद आपको यहाँ देखिएगा कि सबसे पहले यहाँ जो नज़र आ रहा है एक हिस्सा, वो हिस्सा जो विमान का जो टेल है वो टेल यहाँ टकराया और टकराने के बाद वो सीधा विमान अंदर घुसा। लेकिन जो बच्चे यहाँ पे खाना खा रहे थे, ये आपको तस्वीर दिख रहे होंगे कि अभी भी यहाँ पे जो मेस है उसमें देखिए धूल है और धुआं है, और ये तस्वीर आपको बता रही है कि जो धुएं का गुबार है वो मेस से निकला नहीं है। जो पूरा का पूरा छत है वो ब्लैकिश हो चुका है, जल चुका है, और जलने के बाद ये तस्वीर जो आपको नजर आ रही होगी, अभी भी धुआं है इस इलाके में, जो बता रहा है कि कितना ज्यादा उस वक्त तबाही हुई होगी और उस तबाही के बाद की स्थिति क्या हुई होगी।
My colleague Nivriti Mohan is in Ahmedabad. Let's play out the ground report she has filed from the ground zero.
It's really very, very difficult to talk to these families. You don't really feel like talking to them and asking them about the incident, and it's a difficult situation for us as well. He's Anil Patel, this gentleman. He has lost his son and daughter-in-law. बहुत दुख हुआ सर, हमको भी बहुत दुख है। इतने सारे लोग आपके बेटे बहू के साथ, 241 लोग जो प्लेन में थे, सिर्फ एक इंसान बच पाया है, तो बहुत ही दुख की घड़ी है सर सबके लिए।
दुख की घड़ी है ना, मैंने तो मेरा सब कुछ खो दिया, जो सहारा था वो भी निकल गया, कोई बचा। पासपोर्ट भी निकाल दिया, कंप्लीट कर दिया, पासपोर्ट भी आ गया।
पासपोर्ट बनाया था सर?
हाँ, अभी बनाया।
आपका जाने का था लंदन?
नहीं है, हाँ लेके जाने वाला था।
बहुत स्ट्रगल किए भाई ने। एक आस थी कि लंदन जाता है तो सब कुछ
सारा स्ट्रगल खत्म हो जाता।
यहाँ कुछ बन नहीं पाता था। मैं सरकार को ऐसा निवेदन करूंगा कि यहाँ इतनी जॉब मिले सबको कि बाहर जाने का कोई सोचे भी नहीं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday visited the Air India flight A171 crash site in Ahmedabad to assess the situation first hand. He met officials and emergency response teams working in the aftermath of the disaster. The Prime Minister conveyed his condolences to the bereaved families, acknowledging the immense pain and loss they endured. Upon arrival at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Airport, Prime Minister drove directly to the crash site in Meghani Nagar area, accompanied by Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel. PM visited the C7 ward of the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital where the injured are undergoing treatment. Prime Minister spent considerable time inspecting the area. PM also held a review meeting with the officials at the airport in Ahmedabad Union. Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu and State Home Minister Harsh Sanghvi briefed the Prime Minister.
इस विमान में कुल मिलाकर 230 यात्री देश के और विदेश के और 12 क्रू मेंबर सवार थे। इसमें से एक यात्री का बचने का अच्छा समाचार मिला है, मैं उनको मिलकर आया हूं। मृत्यु का आंकड़ा तो डीएनए परीक्षण और यात्रियों की पहचान के बाद ही अथॉरिटी अधिकृत रूप से घोषित करेगी, मगर 1.25 लाख लीटर ईंधन विमान के अंदर ही था और लगभग गर्मी तापमान इतना ऊंचा हो गया कि किसी को बचाने की मौका ही नहीं मिला।
There are a couple of big questions here, and the big questions are what actually happened. If you look at this video, and these are the issues I'm going to take up to my guests. What must have happened? Yesterday, it was very difficult to get into the details of what could have gone wrong because of the shock of the incident. But the big questions are something which cannot be ignored. Why was the aircraft landing gear not retracted? A lot of people are asking that. The second big question is, which people would like to know, did the aircraft suffer a dual engine failure? The third big question, did the engine die because of possible fuel contamination or blockage? Fourth big question, were the flaps on the wings lowered for takeoff? Fifth, could a bird head have contributed to the crash? Sixth, did flaps retract immediately after the takeoff? I will be joined by Neeru Zinzuwadia, Deputy Executive Editor TV9. I will also be joined by Nivriti Mohan, my correspondent. I am joined by Group Captain Vijay, Aviation Expert, Senior Scientist, Captain Kishore Chinta, Chief Pilot, Cirrus India Airlines Private Limited. Thank you both of you for being with me. Let me straight away go to my colleague Nivriti Mohan, who has been reporting on this disaster since morning. Nivriti, are all the DNA tests done, completed?
Karthike, we had been to the hospital, the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, where we could see the relatives who have gathered there to give the samples of their DNA so that the bodies of their loved ones could be identified. So the samples were given to the authorities yesterday night also. The samples were given in the morning also, and I suppose there are people left behind as of now also who have yet to give their samples, so that authorities could take the samples and match the samples with the samples from the remains of the bodies, and the bodies could be identified and then handed over to the relatives. This is the primary task that the authorities are focusing upon right now. We cannot exactly say that all the samples have been collected because there is no official confirmation on that, but this work has been going on since last night, and we have spoken to the families of victims also, where we spoke to the family members who had given samples yesterday night also, and we have spoken to families in the hospital who were waiting for their samples to be given and who gave samples in the morning also. So as I said, Karthike, it is the primary task as of now that is being conducted by the authorities so that the relatives who have already suffered with this extreme pain, that is unbearable pain, where I spoke to one of the victims who says that he has lost all of his family and one father, his son and his daughter-in-law were inside the plane. He had lost his wife earlier due to cancer, and now his son and his daughter-in-law were planning to take that man to London so that he could live along with them. He does not have to live alone in Gujarat. They were planning for that. They had applied for the passport for their father, but with this flight, all those dreams are shattered. A son who wanted to give a comfortable life to a father who has struggled all through his life, and he had a hope in his son and in his daughter-in-law that his children were his ray of hope. So that ray of hope is also lost. We met a family, a father, a husband whose wife and 2 years old granddaughter was there inside this building where we are standing right now, where the plane had crashed at the site. That lady was cooking food in the mess at that time, and he lost both of them. He is still hopeful that he says that they are missing. When we spoke to him, his words were that they are missing, and he is hoping that he will soon be able to identify, to find both of them. So these are the very painful stories that we are listening on.
Absolutely, Nivriti, these are heart-rendering stories. I completely understand, but you stay with me. You stay with me. These are heart-rendering stories. I have introduced my guest. I have introduced my question. Let me go across to Mr. Jha, and we will go question by question. So the first thing which people would like to know is, why were the landing gears out? When are the landing gears supposed to retract? And what do you make of it?
Karthik, yesterday we have discussed in pretty details. Landing gear, why it is not been retracted, could be for various reasons. As I told you, to my eyes, the aeroplane looked to be having very sluggish acceleration right at the time of takeoff or even before takeoff. Possibly the V1 call was already given. Thereafter, there is no return. There is no aborting takeoff. So pilot had to take off. Was that the reason why he had not retracted the engine? Retracted the undercarriages, landing gears? I don't know. Could be one of the reasons. Or was his attention distracted at that time to something happening, which was the reason for the delayed undercarriage retraction? Could be possible, because undercarriage is not very important thing. If your say thrust is sufficient, and if you are going through the normal ascent, it can
Doesn't
be
undercarriage creates a drag? Doesn't undercarriage create a drag?
Surely it's a drag, but we have flown with the undercarriage. We have flown the entire aircraft, the entire circuit with the undercarriage down. That's no reason for immediately, there is no urgency in immediately retracting it. Yes, if you have got the marginal sort of, thrust with you, if the airspeed is something like critical, then yes, you must raise the undercarriage. But there is no purpose served by not retracting the undercarriage. That is the reason behind it. This is not a very big thing to happen. Look, as it looks in the entire takeoff path, takeoff route, immediately after the takeoff, and the plane having very sluggish sort of ascent rate initially, and then ascent rate is ceased. It all denotes to one thing: control failure. You can rule out by and large. It is the engine power which is not having sufficient thrust. I will not also say that engine has failed. No, engine has not failed. Engine is working to some extent. That is why you see the aircraft flying for another nearly a minute after taking off or getting airborne to about 600 feet. So that's the reason that engine has totally not gone down. You can't see a trail of smoke coming from engines to suggest you that there is a fire or anything on the engine. Look, engine can fail.
Okay, I think you made a very important point. Let me introduce my other guest, Captain Kishore Chinta, Chief Pilot, Cirrus India Airline Limited. Sir, what is the difference between loss of thrust and loss of power. We will go section by section.
Primarily, the loss of thrust and loss of power is more or less the same. What we should be discussing is loss of lift over the wings vis-a-vis the loss of power.
Okay.
See, clearly the aircraft is not climbing, so the wings are not generating enough lift at that point of time. So the reasons for lift not being generated could be due to loss of power, could be due to the configuration not being adequate for that thrust setting to climb the aircraft out. We can rule out the possibility of the configuration not being right because the aircraft will give you adequate warnings on the takeoff roll itself. It will not allow you to open a takeoff thrust if the configuration for takeoff is not correct. So there is absolutely no probability that the aircraft would have rolled for takeoff with the configuration incorrect. What's happened is after the aircraft has lifted off from the ground, it seems to be an average pitch for a normal takeoff. Between wheels up to wheels down, it's close to 30-35 seconds is what the aircraft was in the air, where it ascended to about 625 feet AMSL. That's about 425 feet above the ground level over the airfield elevation. So at what point of time the wings started losing any point of generation of lift, and the reasons for that can be multitude. And going back to your earlier question, why were the landing gears not retracted? Every pilot is taught aviate, navigate, communicate. That means first fly the aeroplane, then navigate the aircraft, then communicate. So the pilot's first duty is to fly the aeroplane, which they were doing. Like Group Captain Jha pointed out, it is not a grave emergency to fly with the landing gear down if the engines were generating enough thrust, and which would aid the wings to provide adequate lift. Even if we agree that the flaps were retracted, that is still not reason enough that with fully functional engines and the landing gear down, the aircraft will still climb out. 140,000 pounds of thrust is what both these engines would be generating at full takeoff thrust. So why the engines lost power, we do not know whether they actually lost power. Why the wings were not generating adequate lift for the aircraft to climb out is the moot question. The engines losing power is not evident from the video. There is no smoke or any fire from the engines, which would be indicating of some bird ingestion or a foreign object damage, or even if we consider some kind of technical fault for the engines to start powering down, it would be indicative through something coming out of the exhaust in terms of fumes or flames or anything. None of that is visible in this. It seems to be like a controlled flight into terrain with the wings not generating enough lift. What was going on in the cockpit, why the gear was not raised, or if it was raised at 50 feet like normal positive rate gear up and the gear didn't go up, these are all possibilities and speculations which will only come out once the flight data recording and the cockpit voice recorder downloads are available.
Okay. A day after the tragic crash of the Air India flight in Ahmedabad, the grief continues to overwhelm the city. Families of the deceased victims are now waiting to claim the bodies of their loved ones. Hundreds of grieving relatives have gathered at the Vijay Medical College Hospital, where blood samples are being collected for DNA testing to help identify the victims. So far, 205 DNA samples have been collected. 240 bodies have been recovered from the crash site. Authorities believe more bodies may still be found in the debris. A dedicated DNA sampling facility has also been set up at the Kasauti Bhavan of Ahmedabad Civil Hospital to assist families in the heartbreaking process. Let me play out this short content for you.
अहमदाबाद के उसी सिविल हॉस्पिटल में जहां थोड़ी देर पहले प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी आए और घायलों का हालचाल जाना। मेरे पीछे आप देख सकते हैं ये वही C7 वार्ड है जिसके अंदर विश्वास भाई जो कि उस हादसे के एकमात्र जिंदा व्यक्ति हैं वो भर्ती हैं, और इसके अलावा यहाँ पर कुछ और घायल जो कि उस वक्त जब ये प्लेन क्रैश हुआ उस हॉस्टल में मौजूद थे, वो जो घायल हुए उनको यहाँ पर रखा गया है, उनका इलाज यहाँ चल रहा है। आप सिक्योरिटी देख सकते हैं कितनी टाइट है यहाँ पर, सुरक्षाकर्मी किसी को भी अंदर जाने की इजाज़त नहीं दे रहे हैं, और केवल वही लोग जो अधिकृत हैं जिनको यहाँ पर जाने के लिए अंदर कहा गया है वही इसके अंदर जा सकते हैं। बाकी चाहे वो अस्पताल का स्टाफ भी हो या डॉक्टर्स भी हों, उनको भी यहाँ पर इसके अंदर नहीं जाने दिया जा रहा है। मैं मौजूद हूँ अहमदाबाद के उसी सिविल हॉस्पिटल।
So this was the report of our correspondent, and now I'll play out another ground report. The tears, silence and the prayers, families anxiously await news of their missing loved ones because the body needs to be identified. Families mourn the devastating loss. Let's hear from those who have been affected by this tragedy.
We are at Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, and right behind me you can see the post-mortem room where the remains are being brought, and here only the post-mortem, if needs to be conducted, it is being conducted here. And then on the other side of the building is another place where DNA samples from the relatives of the victims are being collected, and then the DNA samples will be collected and they will be matched with the victims, and the remains will be handed over to the families. So we have one of the relatives of the victim. Sir, aapka naam?
My name is Sanjeev Chhajar.
Can you please tell us how are you related to the girl, and who is the girl?
She is the Sanjana Palkhiwala, the daughter of my friend Sonali and Savrin Palkhiwala. She was traveling to London yesterday on the seat number 16G. She is a student, and she last message to the mother at 1:31 p.m. yesterday that I'm taking off. And after a few minutes, this incident happened. And we are here to see when we can get a dead body. The process is going on. DNA samples were given of the father. We are very satisfied with the process which is going on over here. The incidents, what has happened is a very shocking and terrible. But at the same time, I was here in the hospital since yesterday 2 o'clock till around 8 o'clock.
At the hospital, Prime Minister Modi met British national Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, the only survivor of the crash. Ramesh, who was on board the elevated flight, miraculously escaped. Other passengers lost their lives. He was in the 11A seat of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner near an emergency exit and managed to jump out. Speaking from his hospital bed, the 40-year-old told the media that he was travelling to Britain with his brother after visiting family in India. Ramesh was seated near an emergency exit. Miraculously, he survived.
The lone survivor who miraculously survived this fatal air crash is with us, is undergoing treatment at the civil hospital in Ahmedabad. What was the situation yesterday? Can you describe for us, please?
I can't explain. Everything happened in my eye. I can't.
How did you manage to escape? Did you pull the emergency doors?
No. Emergency door is broken.
Yeah.
My seat is broken.
Yeah.
Then I see the place little bit.
Yeah.
Then I will try to come out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
So, did the aircraft catch fire before you came out?
Yes.
Okay.
Little bit fire. After me, I'm out. Then blast.
So, did anybody help you, or you after that you came out on your own? How did you jump from the aircraft?
I'm not jumping.
Okay.
I just walk out, innit?
Okay.
Then ambulance coming in.
You did walk out on the building, or
No, in floor.
on the floor?
Yes.
Okay.
Inside the aeroplane.
Only there.
Yeah.
So, and you managed to get into the ambulance there? What did Prime Minister tell you? What was the conversation?
He's just asking me everything is okay. Innit? That's it.
You're feeling better now.
Yes.
And where your family? Where's your family? Are you
Everybody is in London.
okay.
Yes. Me and my brother staying in India last 8-9 months. And yesterday I was going to back to London. happened everything. Yeah.
How do you feel that you have survived this kind of?
I can't explain. It's miracle everything.
So here we have the lone survivor of the attack, definitely at a loss of words of what he saw yesterday, and definitely something that nobody can encapsulate in words in terms of the massive tragedy that has struck with this airplane crash. What we also understand that this lone survivor is the only witness of what had happened that day. Besides, a number of people who were at the hostel mess during lunch have also faced serious injuries and are being treated at this hospital, the civil hospital here in Ahmedabad.
Now let me straight away go to my correspondent Neeru Zinzuwadia, Deputy Executive Editor, TV9 Network. Thank you so much, Neeru, for joining me. Neeru, am I audible to you? Neeru, what's the latest update from the ground zero?
Right now, I'm stationed at the civil hospital right outside the postmortem room, and you can see the security has been completely tightened here. Let me quickly update you with the number of DNA tests that have been done so far. Official figure confirms that 210 DNA samples have been provided by the family of the deceased, and few more are still they are expecting them to be arrived soon. And as of now, few dead bodies have been handed over to the families of the deceased, and at the moment the situation here is extremely painful and grim because we talked to a number of families who are here to collect the bodies of their loved ones, and they never thought that this flight to London, it will end up here in this devastating manner. And people are in grief. They are actually in extreme pain, which cannot be described in words. But as of now, the investigation agencies, they have started all the investigations, especially the black box that has been recovered. They are trying to start the investigation. The investigation has been started from the DGCA point of view and also other foreign agencies, and they will definitely try to track down what exactly went wrong with this Air India flight with 242 passengers on board. Karthikeya.
Okay, you continue to stay with me. Mr. Jha, we were talking about the loss of power. The other guest, Captain Kishore Chinta, was talking about what we should focus on, which is the thrust not available at the wing. But the prima facie, a lot of people are also ruling out the fact that it does not look like a bird hit, no flares have been seen. It does not look like a case of fuel contamination. How do you rule out such things, sir?
Look, fuel contamination cannot be ruled out at this stage. For that, investigation will have to check the fuel from which bother it was fuel up there. That will have to undergo the test, because fuel is one of the reasons for both engines to go out simultaneously, whether go out or die down or whatever it is there. Fuel is one of the reasons. Other than that, there are another few things in the engine exhausters we know. Misfueling also is known once in a while. Those things happen. And above all, there could be many other features which this particular engine would have shown during the stage of its development. Those could be possible. So when the Boeing 787, this particular engine manufacturers, they come here, they will be giving details of the characteristics of the various stages of the engine, and that will be known only thereafter. But there is no doubt that engine has malperformed, both engines simultaneously. That is why all the dots go there, that there is something wrong with the engine. Now, all other things, usually we take it as a corollary. The moment we raise the thrust, RPM goes up, With the RPM, we know that if RPM is say 80% or 85% or 100%, thrusts are accordingly generated that way. So these are the broad features of any particular engine. It is directly proportional to the RPM that you are generating. However, there could be some situations where in the RPM showing you something different and the thrust generator is something that those things are also possible, which possibly the investigation team will go into the details of the entire thing happening with the engine. That is one thing. It is also for sure that the engine has not totally dwindled down. It has not ceased. It has not ceased. So that is also for true. Because both engine cannot cease at the same identical time, Karthik. That is what is bothering most of us. Again, I reiterate that there are occasional situations when both engines have died down. So I should not be speculating anything here at this stage. There is a reason for the investigation team to look to all aspects of this particular flight. And I think the pilot should be complimented. I wish whoever his soul is there, he should be complimented that he has kept the wings level by and large and handled the aircraft even in those grave emergency when he has given the SOS call or the Mayday call. He has tried to keep the wings level, and even the attitude of the aircraft is as if it is going to touch down for a normal landing somewhere. I'm not sure whether he has seen any flat ground in front of him because there were inhabitations there. So misfortune. Very unfortunate that it has happened, but I must compliment the pilot that he has kept the aircraft absolutely in a attitude with which, if there was a flat ground, he should have been able to land the aircraft there, opened all those doors and everything, and that would have been taken care of. There would have been the slide opened up. That would have been the emergency door opened up. All those things would have happened. One small thing came to my mind was how this lone passenger from 11A, he escaped. After the impact with the hostel, was that the reason for the emergency door to be opened? I'm not sure. But usually, just after the crash landing, pilot does release those emergency doors to open and the rubber slide to deploy. I'm not sure whether that much of time was there because hardly it was about a second and a half.
I don't think the pilot had any time. If you go by the visuals, I don't think they had any time. Captain Chinta, do you suspect the issue of flaps, sir?
The issue of flaps, see, the wing design for a Boeing 787 is so beautiful.
And I meant in terms of retraction.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Even if in the wildest of theories, we assume that the flaps were at zero or retracted, it is, like I mentioned, it is impossible to roll for the takeoff with an incorrect configuration for takeoff. For this kind of configuration, it probably would have been a flap 5 and the leading edge slats extended. In the pictures available, the wing clearly shows that the slats were extended on the leading edge. We do not know the position of the flaps as of now from any of the reports or any of the pictures available. But even if we assume that the flaps were retracted or were at zero flap, this aeroplane with the engines functioning and that wing design is highly capable of generating enough lift to climb away with the kind of thrust these engines have. So the theory of flaps not being at takeoff configuration setting, I've also heard some conspiracy theories by various people, including some pilots in USA, saying that probably the flaps were retracted, inadvertently or incorrectly. If that was to happen with the gear down after takeoff, there would be mayhem in terms of warnings on the cockpit warning panels. Configuration flaps would kick up on the ECAS and there would be caution
Traction
warnings.
Immediately after takeoff is a possibility?
Retraction there's nothing. There's no physical detent which prevents you from retracting the flaps. But if you do that, there would be warning horns and lights and everything to warn the pilots to put it back to take off. These are all speculations at this point of time. The videos are not conclusive enough because 5 degrees of flaps, flap 5 is really not discernible unless we physically see the wings which have survived the crash, whether the flaps were in the right position or not. But I would rule out any possibility of the flaps not being in the correct configuration, because this is an aircraft where if you are not in the right configuration as per the calculated performance settings on the FMS, it would not allow you to roll for takeoff. There is no possibility.
Okay, my question was not that. I understand that there would be a sound in cockpit. I heard another pilot when he made his video on YouTube. I was saying that is it possible that you take off and somehow you retract it without realizing it? That was the question. I understand that's a very important point you made, sir. I'll come to that.
If you retract it, there will be adequate warnings. So I don't think
immediately after takeoff also.
Yes, there would be adequate warnings.
There would be adequate warnings.
The mere fact that the pilots gave a mayday call, they did realize there was something drastically wrong in the aeroplane, that they gave a mayday call.
Okay. Now after this, let me go across to Neeru. After this, we will discuss how this entire thing would be reconstructed. Is it correct that the entire debris would be taken, an entire aircraft in context of what is left would be kept in place to understand what must have gone wrong? But we will do that after playing out a report of my colleague Kumar Kundan from the Vijay Medical College hostel.
कल की घटना के बाद से हॉस्टल से लगातार जो डॉक्टर्स हैं उनका यहां से निकलना जारी है और एक एक करके यहां से डॉक्टर्स निकल रहे हैं। ये वो डॉक्टर्स हैं जो इस जगह पे अपने रहते थे और सामान ले लेके डॉक्टर्स यहां से जा रहे हैं। और निश्चित रूप से कल की घटना ने सबको झकझोर कर रख दिया है। कई सारे डॉक्टर्स यहां पे मारे भी गए हैं, उनके परिजन मारे गए हैं। तो ये अब देखिए कि इनके हाथ और तमाम तरह की चीज़ें दिखा रही है कि कितनी मेहनत करके इन्होंने अपने सामान वगैरह निकाला है, बची कुछ संपत्ति जो है उसको निकाला है, क्योंकि कई सारे ऐसे डॉक्टर्स हैं जिनके सामान वगैरह सब कुछ जल चुके हैं। तो यहाँ से ये डॉक्टर का पूरा परिवार अब सामान लेके निकल रहा है और हॉस्टल पूरा खाली कर रहा है। दरअसल पूरे प्रीमाइसेस की बात करें तो एक मेस है और उसके साथ 4 हॉस्टल हैं और 4 हॉस्टल्स में जो 2 हॉस्टल हैं उनके सामने में सबसे बड़ी चुनौती ये है कि जो प्लेन क्रैश हुआ वो 2 हॉस्टल में हुआ। तो दोनों हॉस्टल जो है बुरी तरह से सामने वाला इलाका था जल के खाक हुआ है और अब अपने सर्टिफिकेट, अब अपने डॉक्यूमेंट्स, ये तमाम तरह की चीज़ें लेकर यहाँ से डॉक्टर निकल रहे हैं और सबकी कोशिश है कि किसी भी तरीके से सुरक्षित निकला जाए। तो ये तस्वीर TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको दिखा रहा है जिसमें डॉक्टर्स अपने सामान और लगेज लेके धीरे धीरे यहाँ से निकल रहे हैं और इस पूरे प्रेमाइसेस को खाली कर रहे हैं। निश्चित रूप से डर, भय, खौफ के माहौल में ये सारे के सारे लोग हैं और इनकी जो स्थिति है उसका अंदाज़ा आप सहज लगा सकते हैं कि कितनी परेशानी में ये लोग हैं। कल की घटना के बाद से हॉस्टल से
So my colleague Kumar Kundan from the ground zero. Let me straight away go to Neeru Zinzuwadia, who continues to be with me. Neeru, Kumar Kundan was saying that hostel premises are being emptied. Obviously, you know, the structural integrity of the buildings have been impacted. Where do you think this forensic investigation in Ahmedabad would start? The ground investigation?
See, Karthikeya, yesterday throughout the day, I was there on the spot on the crash site, and we have seen a number of belongings, a number of documents and other important evidence that were left behind are being collected and being deposited with the administration and the concerned investigative departments. And we have seen a number of documents, and the most important update that we are receiving is the black box that has been recovered right now. The flight data recorder. The black box is the flight data recorder that has been recovered and is being analyzed, and definitely there is a possibility of the reconstruction of the exact crash site. And let me also update you with the most important point, that is the pilot, that is PM Modi chaired a high-level meeting after visiting the hospital and meeting the families of the deceased ones in the morning at the civil hospital. And he also chaired a high-level meeting and met the Gujarat officials to assess the overall situation and the relief operations as well. As far as investigation goes, let me also tell you, India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is leading this probe along with the Director General of Civil Aviation and Air India officials. International agencies have also joined in this investigation. UK's Air Accident Investigation Branch and the US National Transportation Safety Board has also joined this investigation, and FFA, Boeing and engine maker General Electric are also involved in this overall investigation. So it is being done from a 360-degree angle, and they are definitely trying to assess what exactly went wrong right after the takeoff of this Air India flight. Kartikeya.
Thank you so much, Niru. Let me straight away go to Mr. Jha. Mr. Jha, how do you reconstruct the entire plane? How do you reconstruct the chain of events? Is it something which people see, watch it in films, that you reconstruct the entire debris? Is that correct?
Absolutely. That is one of the mandatory things that to happen. We try to reconstruct the entire chain of events that has led into the accident. And especially in the situations where we have no clue. Here in this case, we have two video snaps. One of the takeoff roll, and then there after takeoff, the cessation of the climbing, then plane coming down, and another video clip is showing how the plane is keeping its nose up and trying to come as if it is coming for landing in area which is inhabited. So these two things are there, followed by the fire of wall. All these are clear. So a few things I must clarify. One of the reasons for the all post-mortem to be done is to find the reason, exact cause of the accidents, because these post-mortems, they also give you many other clues. Here in this case, the plane had just taken off. It was under the manual control. It was being flown. So many of the things will be ruled out subsequently, including the events happening in the cockpit. If there was something happening in the cockpit which could have disabled the pilots as well as the crew, even those things are indicated in the chain of events in the post-mortem when we do. They are the ways of doing it. So post-mortem, since it is mandatory, that is how it is being carried out. But more so here, bodies are charred, you can't identify. So DNA sampling is the one which has to be carried out to be given to the near and dear of those unfortunate victims. That is one thing. Now, chain of in the reconstruction of the accidents, usually it happens at the later stage. First few questions that bog the investigators is what exactly has happened, why it has happened, how it could have been prevented, or how it could get into such situations. These are the few initial questions that all of us, we ask ourselves looking at the clip without interacting to the other member. We try to form our opinion, keeping all the variables in place. But then when we, as a team of investigation, we all come together, we exchange our thoughts, and we come to the possible chain of events that has led into the accident.
Now let me play out the reactions that have coming. The relatives of the Air India crash victims are still grieving at the loss of their loved ones. Let's listen into the voice of sorrow and how this crash has shattered their dreams.
इतना कुछ किया है आज हमारे लिए, इतना करो कि बस मेरे भतीजे और मेरे मम्मी को मिला दो।
मैं मेस में काम करती हूँ, बहुत सारा भड़ाका हुआ, हम सब दौड़ के नीचे भागे, बस अपनी अपनी जान बचा के भागे, कुछ पता ही नहीं चला।
कितने लोग लंदन के लिए उड़ रहे थे, कितने बच्चे थे उसमें, जब ये कैसे हादसा हुआ, इसकी पूरी जांच होनी चाहिए। एयर इंडिया को इसका जवाब देना चाहिए, उसके इंजीनियर को जवाब देना चाहिए, उसके जितने भी कर्मचारी है ये फ्लाइट को उड़ने कैसा दिए।
वो प्लेन क्या इधर से आया तो वो मालूम हुआ कि हमको ऐसा कि लाइट आई तो लाइट बम फैलाते हुआ ऐसा, तो फिर से हुआ ने जब बोला तो ये तो प्लेन पड़ा तो हम तो जल्दी जल्दी भाग के आए।
जब हम रोटी बना रहे न तब वो ऊपर से प्लेन ऐसा गिर गया नीचे और बहुत हादसा हुआ था, बहुत यानी बहुत। सिलेंडर हमने लगा कि सिलेंडर फटा है तो पीछे से आगे ऐसी भभूक गई ना तो मेरे पीछे यहाँ थोड़ा जल गई हूँ, तो मगर अपनी जान बचाने के लिए हम है न कुछ भी लिया नहीं, सब ऊपर छोड़ के नीचे उतर गए हम।
Before I close my show, let me take a closing comment from Captain Kishore Chinta. Sir, how do you reconstruct it? Mr. Jha was telling us the way you go about deciphering what has happened, but how do you reconstruct it, sir? What I want to know is physically. How do you physically investigate the remains of the plane?
I have been a part of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau and also been an accident investigator for a fatal crash and other crashes. So every single part of the aeroplane which is available at the crash site would be retrieved, would be transported to a hangar. Every single part will be laid out to reconstruct the entire aeroplane, each and every, be it a nut, bolt, pipeline, every single thing, every remnant of the engines, the nacelle, everything will be reconstructed in a hangar and inspected for what kind of damage, if there was fuel contamination, what kind of damage that would cause, whether there were any remnants due to the fuel contamination inside the engine. A portion of the engine seems to have collapsed, but still intact. It would provide a lot of clues whether there was any damage inside to the blades of the compressor or the stator. All those will be analyzed, whether there were fatigue failures or blunt injuries, or if there was a bird ingestion. All those will tell a tale. My heart goes out to all the families, the crew who lost their lives. But most importantly, we should also remember every single crew among the Indian aviation sphere who have operated flights after this accident. Their resilience, their training, and their resolve, knowing that we've lost other crew, knowing they've lost their colleagues, they've continued flying. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau in India is well equipped.
Absolutely.
Now we have our own lab to decipher the data from the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. We no more have to send it out of the country. We have our own lab and we can download all the data, and Boeing will also be available for providing all kinds of assistance. I am sure that we will come to know the exact sequence of events. We have softwares to piece together using all the data available to reconstruct the entire flight path, right from startup to taxi to wheels roll for takeoff to climb to descent. Everything can be reconstructed. It's the technology is available. Our Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is highly capable and competent to bring out all the aspects of why, what, how things have happened.
Okay. Now, investigators are collecting evidence from the site for forensic analysis. Let's listen into this important reaction that has come from Gujarat. And with this, I close this special show on the Ahmedabad air disaster.
काफी डरावना हादसा है और जिस हिसाब से एरोप्लेन क्रैश हुआ उस हिसाब से सारा का सारा मतलब डिजास्टर विक्टिम आइडेंटिफिकेशन करना मुश्किल है। जितनी भी डेड बॉडीज है उनको पोस्टमार्टम रूम में शिफ्ट कर दिया गया है। फॉरेंसिक साइंस टीम लेबोरेटरी सारा का सारा काम कर रही है। उसके रिगार्डिंग जो डीएनए आइडेंटिफिकेशन किया जा रहा है वो चल रहा है और उसके हिसाब से डीएनए मैच करके और डेड बॉडीज उनके परिजनों को हैंड ओवर कर दी जाएगी।
campaigns that are simple. Like I remember the Fevicol campaign. Oh my God, insane, right? And I still remember in Snatchers there was this movie that lays an anda. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
You know, the guy basically picks up the anda, tries to break it, doesn't break, and next to it is the Fevicol anda in which the movie, right?
Yeah.
That was one. I think there was a Fevikwik ad where this guy goes to a lake, puts
Yeah.
Fevikwik on a stick. Then there's this.
He gets the fish.
He gets the fish, right? Then there's the Happy Dent ad. I don't know if you remember. It goes back to like an old time. Dusk is setting. It's going to be night soon, and everyone starts to